I work the night shift as a security guard at an almost abandoned shopping mall. Things are getting creepy. Part 1. I walk down a long hallway lined with empty storefronts, beside Mr. Jenkins, a fat man with sweat-drenched polyester jacket. He was puffing on a cigar right inside the building, which was probably illegal. And it made me wonder, was he testing me? I was here to take the overnight security guard job for this dying mall. Did he want to see if I'd dare tell someone in authority they were breaking the rules? No, I told myself, he probably didn't care anymore. All the stores were closed, and he was forced to hire a night security guard to watch over all that useless space. Nearly 1 million square feet of retail, he said. 8 corridors, 3 with a second floor. Beautiful statues and fountains designed by a talented artist. A food court and 3 large department stores. He paused, waiting for my reaction. Impressive, I said. Yeah, he replied, it used to be. Then why the night security, I asked. Increased crime recently. Worse, he replied, damn YouTubers. You said what? I asked. It's that website where people post videos. I know what YouTube is, I cut him off. I'm only 24, not Amish. I mean, what are they doing at the mall? They sneak in at night, film skateboarding, pranks, ghosts, he said. Ghosts, I asked. He stopped and looked me straight in the eye. Malls are like hospitals or universities, he said. Every large public place has at least one ghost story, doesn't mean they're real. He took a drag from his cigar. You're not a YouTuber, are you, Brian? No, I said. Then the job's yours if you want it. The first few shifts were pretty easy. I was a night owl, which was why I took the job. Plus, I didn't know what else to do with my newly acquired philosophy degree. I guess Socrates used to be a night security guard until Plato started writing everything he said down. Who knows? Maybe history would repeat itself. Each night, I'd start my shift by doing a round through all the corridors, up and down the escalators, and then checking the staff-only passages where the store stockrooms were. They were mostly empty, as not many stores were left in the mall. It was strange to think that the empty stalls I walked past used to be places people flocked to every week, even daily. Online shopping probably killed all that. Anyway, for my shift, I'd play music from my phone through the mall's speaker system. Not bad at all. On the 4th night, I left my phone at the central kiosk. The mall was playing a loop of 80s pop music as I wandered around. It was past 3:00 a.m. At the end of each corridor, there was a fountain with faceless metal statues. They held hands, dancing in a circle around the fountain. All the corridors had similar statues in almost identical poses. At that moment, I was on the 2nd floor, looking down at a fountain. Every statue's head was turned to the left, looking at the next statue. I was sure of it. I had seen these statues dozens of times. But then, I leaned over the railing. One of the statues was looking straight up at me. I recoiled. No way, I saw what I saw, or maybe I just hadn't noticed before. There was one statue that genuinely looked up. I leaned down again. That statue now looked to the left exactly like the others. That whole night, I avoided getting near the end of that corridor. The next evening, I arrived early while some stores were still open. I planned to grab dinner at the food court, walk around the mall to make it less creepy, and maybe ask other employees if they'd ever seen anything strange. I stopped at a pizza place for a slice when I saw the girl I mentally called Goth Yogurt Girl. That definitely wasn't her name, but I didn't know what else to call her. She had black hair, black eyeshadow, and black nail polish, pale skin, yet she wore a pastel uniform for the yogurt shop, completely opposite to her personal style. I wasn't hungry, but I wanted yogurt. I'll take a large shake, I said. What flavor? She asked. Can I mix cocoa, crazy chocolate, and salivating strange strawberry? Nice, she replied, and started making my order. I'm Brian, I said, new security guard here. I could tell by the uniform, she replied. You've been working here long. I just finished college a little over a year ago, then bought this shop, she said. Wait, you own this yogurt shop? Yeah, she said. The old owner wanted out because the mall was dying. I bought it for a steal, probably cheaper than continuing college. Then why don't you make it a goth-themed yogurt shop? I asked. Sorry if that's rude. No, I get it, she said, handing me the shake. Like, this is my brand. She pointed to her black makeup. But if the shop was all goth, customers would think I only sold black yogurt or something. If I'm the cute, pink yogurt princess, she curtsied sarcastically, then customers understand there's a variety of fun fruit flavors. I took a sip of the chocolate mix. Delicious, I said, handing her cash. Hey, can I ask you something? I know what you're going to ask, she smiled, starting to write something on the receipt. Huh? I was surprised. I was going to ask if she'd seen anything strange in the mall, something creepy or unsettling. She immediately stopped writing, eyes narrowed. Who told you to ask me that? She snapped. Don't mess with me anymore. I'm sick of being ridiculed. She threw the change and receipt at me, then retreated to the back stockroom. I walked away, looking down at the receipt. She had been about to give me her phone number, but because of my question, she got angry and stopped halfway. That night, I made every excuse not to go to the end of the corridor that had scared me. There was a CCTV system, but Mr. Jenkins said it kept breaking down, and he got tired of fixing it, so he just gave up. I spent a bunch of time fiddling with it, trying to fix it, but it was no use. I scrolled through YouTube, looking for videos shot in this mall. I found a few clips of a skateboarder weaving through the corridors and empty shops. In one clip, Mr. Jenkins discovered him, chased him for about 5 steps, then gave up, panting and puffing on his cigar. There were also some prank videos, mostly a kid pushing his friend into a fountain. Strangely, there were no ghost hunting videos or anything creepy. Past midnight, I stood staring at a column with a reflective surface that distorted my reflection like a funhouse mirror. New Order's Blue Monday was playing over the speakers. 80s music suited them all, so I let that playlist run on repeat. In the reflection, I saw a flash behind me, around the corner of the nearest corridor. A faceless metal statue's head peeked out from an empty storefront, its hands gripping the edge of the wall. Only a part of it was visible. Normally, there were no statues in that position, and all statues were supposed to be at the end of the corridor near the fountain, not here. I bolted, running away from the statue towards the nearest exit. Blue Monday continued to play, and I thought I was mistaken, and I thought I heard you speak. Tell me, how do I feel? Tell me, how should I? The row of steel shutters leading outside was locked. I fumbled for my ring of keys. Just then, I turned to look. The statue was standing properly at the end of the corridor, out of the empty store. An arm reached out towards me. I stopped fumbling for keys, wondering, is this a YouTuber? They were the reason I was hired. Maybe this was a staged prank for a video. Tomorrow, I'd probably be famous all over the internet as the biggest coward on earth. I put my keys back in my pocket and walked purposefully towards the statue. The mall is closed, I said, my voice deeper than usual. You're not supposed to be here. I straightened my back. The statue was motionless. For some reason, adrenaline surged through me. I lunged at it. You are trespassing, I yelled. I crashed into the hard metal body. My head hit the tiled floor. As I lay stunned, the statue shifted. It leaned down, its head tilted like a dog's. Then I passed out. I woke up in a hospital. The doctor said I was lucky not to be in a coma. A stranger in my uniform walked into the room. He looked about 30. I looked down and saw I was wearing a hospital gown. You're wearing my uniform? I asked. What? He replied. No, this is my uniform. I'm George, day security guard. Oh, I said. Sorry, I have a concussion. I found you when the mall opened, he said. What happened? I told him about the statue, about it following me, and how I thought it was a YouTuber. He handed me my phone. I probably left it at the central kiosk, I said. The music was still playing. All right, he said. I'll call Mr. Jenkins and tell him you wrestled a YouTuber on duty, but I don't think I'll tell him exactly what he wants to hear. George said, don't let his cheap suit and $3 cigars fool you. That guy's rich. If he believes you took down a YouTuber last night, he'll cover your hospital bills, maybe even give you a raise. I'll step out and make the call. I'll be right back. I want to talk to you about some things. George stepped into the hallway to call Mr. Jenkins. While he was out, I Googled the mall's name with the keyword ghosts. Before, I had only searched on YouTube and found nothing, but searching the broader internet yielded different results. On a website that looked full of viruses, there was a copy of an old, deleted YouTube video. In the video, a college-aged girl was talking to the camera from inside a car. She introduced herself as Amanda. She planned to hide in the bathroom before closing time to spend the night ghost hunting. She also showed a voice recorder and an infrared camera. I fast-forwarded to the middle. She was sitting in a bathroom stall, perfectly still, but flinching at every sound. "What was that?" she whispered. "Who's there?" Then there was a creaking sound. I jumped to near the end of the video. The girl was running and screaming. "All the doors are gone, all the doors are gone, I don't know how to get out of here. What's happening?" At that moment, another person was with her, or at least I assumed so because their face wasn't in frame. The video also had a very strange, indescribable sound. George returned to the hospital room. I paused the video. "Mr. Jenkins sent his regards," he said. "He told me he'd call the hospital to cover your bill and also said that next time you go to the mall, open your locker and you'll find a gift certificate. The doctor said you can be discharged today, no need to stay overnight. Do you need me to give you a ride back to get your car?" I shuddered. "I don't know if I should go back there," I said. "Maybe I didn't explain clearly what I saw, but I told you I wanted to discuss this with you." "I believe you really did experience something strange last night," George said. "Something unexplainable. You're not the only one. We have a group that meets tonight at 6:00 p.m. in the back room of the Drunken Bard, the board game shop near the food court." "George," I said, "what exactly is in that mall? What did I see last night?" He hesitated for a moment, as if unsure what to say, or perhaps there was too much to say. "Come meet us tonight," he replied. "I have to get back to work. Listen, I understand if you don't want to come or if you want to quit altogether. Usually night shift guards don't last long, but I hope you'll drop by. Hearing that you almost attacked one of them means you've got guts. We need people like that." With that, he left. Statues that move at night. And that YouTuber, Amanda, screaming that all the doors were gone. I don't know if that video was real or just a trick for views. Is $8 and a half an hour worth going back to find out? Well, if I don't find a better job, I'll probably at least join George's group. Next time, I'll tell you how it went. Part 2. As I walked into the Drunken Bard, a man in his late 30s, slightly overweight with greasy blonde hair, was behind the counter yelling into a phone. "Stop asking, we don't sell alcohol. This is a board game store, not a liquor store." He slammed the phone down, then looked up at me. "If you ask for whiskey or beer," he said, "I'll throw these dice at you." He squeezed a handful of 20-sided dice in his hand. "George told me to come," I said. I don't know how to phrase it, the creepy moving statues, demons, paranormal, aliens." "Aliens," the guy firmly replied. He stepped out from behind the counter. "George and the others say it's ghosts or from some spiritual realm, but I'm certain they're aliens." He wiped his hand on his sweat-drenched sweatpants, then offered it to shake mine. I cautiously shook his hand. "I'm Luke," he said, gesturing around the space. "The esteemed owner of this shop you're standing in. Swear to God, the other shop owners look down on me because this is a nerd shop, but I make a ton of money from here. The DEA should be warning kids about Magic, the Gathering cards. The rest of everyone is in the back," he said. He pulled a flask from his pocket. "Want a drink?" I declined. He led me into the back room. We sat on folding chairs arranged in a circle. On the table behind us were an old, stale box of donuts and cold coffee. It felt like I had accidentally joined a support group. George was there. Luke, of course, was leading me in. The goth yogurt girl sat across from me. On either side of me were an old man with a sparse white beard and an Asian woman around my mother's age. "We should introduce ourselves," George said. "Explain why we're here. I'll start, Brian. You know me, I'm George, one of the day's security guards. The first time I realized there was a problem was about 2 years ago. It was during the holidays, so I was working the evening shift. I went to check one of the staff-only passages, worried kids might sneak in. According to my watch," he held up his Timex, "I was in there for less than 15 minutes. But when I got back to the main hall, I found out I had been gone for 3 days." "Time loss is usually due to alien abduction," Luke said, making everyone groan in exasperation. "Enough with the alien theories." The woman of Chinese descent cut in, then she turned to me. "I'm Susan. I own the massage parlor near J.C. Penney." "Best Asian massage in the city," Luke interjected. "Seriously, I've told Luke countless times," Susan said. "Even though I'm Asian, my shop mainly uses Swedish massage techniques." Oh, come on, that's segregation, the goth yogurt girl spoke up. You're Asian and you run a massage parlor, so it's an Asian massage parlor. That's a self-evident truth, Luke argued. That's not self-evident at all, I said. Never mind, Susan sighed. At least he stopped calling my shop an Oriental massage parlor. Some progress is better than none. Anyway, I often hear whispers behind me when I'm in my shop. I don't know what they're saying, but the sound is right next to my ear, like someone's leaning in to tell me a secret in a strange language. And then the statues. George said you saw them move? I saw them too. That day, I stayed late to do paperwork. After I locked up my shop, all the other stores had their lights off. I went to the door they said was still an exit. It was near one of the fountains with statues. When I reached the end of the corridor, things were really strange. All the statues were gone. I guess someone must have taken them to clean, which was illogical, but I couldn't think of any other explanation. Then, as I got closer to the exit, I heard a sound behind me. Looking back at the end of the corridor, they were there. All the statues. And they were looking at me. I ran like hell to the door, jumped into my car, and drove away. It took me a few days before I dared to come back to the mall. I told Mr. Jenkins the story. He insisted it was an internet prank, but George and the people here convinced me something more terrifying was going on. All eyes turned to the goth yogurt girl. I don't want to talk about it, she said, crossing her arms. Jenna, George spoke up, if you share for Brian. I said I don't want to, she interrupted. Not tonight. George nodded empathetically. All right, my turn, the old man with the sparse white beard began. He didn't wait for anyone to reply and immediately continued, introducing himself as Mark. He had worked at the mall every November until December 2nd for 3 years. Everyone here usually called him Santa Claus. And oh boy, I have a story for you, he said. Got time to listen? Good, let me start. Back in the day, I was neat, healthy, and clean-shaven. Hard to believe, right? But you have to believe me, I served in the Navy, a Marine during the Vietnam War. I'm not saying it to brag, it's important to this story, you'll see later. As I said, back then I was neat, healthy, and clean-shaven. In '66 and '67, I served on the USS Franklin D. Roosevelt. We usually called her Swanky Frankie, even though she was named after the president I hated most. I still served with great pride. For a few months, I worked as a night cook in the ship's galley, preparing breakfast and serving late-night meals for other night shift crew. So I understand your night security guard shift, Brian. I was a petty officer first class, in charge of the galley until Reveille, when the chief petty officer first class took over. There was a corpsman who also worked the night shift. We became good friends because we both smoked, and the smoking lounge was empty at night. At 2:00 a.m., we'd go out there and talk about what we missed back home, mostly girls, then complain about our superiors. Months went by like that. But one night, when we went out to the smoking lounge, my friend Wallace looked different. His eyes were full of gloom. Wallace, what's wrong? I asked. I had a dream, he said, and refused to explain further. The next night, Wallace looked sullen again. I asked again, what's wrong? He still just replied, I had a dream. I told him, that's not good, you have to tell me what's bothering you, Wallace. But that time, he remained silent. On the third night, Wallace came to the smoking lounge in his dress blues. He looked sharp, but we were out at sea. You only wore those if you were being disciplined or court-martialed. I asked him if he was in trouble. Absolutely not, Wallace said, his eyes glazed over, his voice flat. Actually, tonight is a night to celebrate. Celebrate what? I asked. I've been talking to a woman for the past few nights, he said. She's beautiful, the most beautiful I've ever seen, and she loves me, and I love her too. But our ship is out at sea, I said. There's no sign of a woman for miles. You're wrong, he replied. She's following the ship beneath the water. Wallace, what are you talking about? I was worried. She's perfect, Davis, in every way. She says she can hear me when I dream, hear my thoughts, my memories, everything about me, and she loves me. Everything about me, Davis. In my dreams, I've lived with her for years. Now it's time for me to go with her. Wallace slowly walked to the edge of the ship. Don't do anything foolish, I whispered, cautiously approaching, afraid a sudden move would provoke him. Come with me, he said, spreading his arms. I'm sure there are many others like her down there. They'll hear your thoughts and dreams, think you're perfect. Isn't that better than living like this? I grabbed his hand, trying to pull him away from the ship's railing, intending to hug him tight. I yelled, "Help me, someone wants to jump." But as I called for help, Wallace put all his strength into struggling free and he escaped. He jumped. I yelled for help, someone fell overboard. But we never found his body. That part of the ship was at the stern, so the waves should have pushed his body into the ship's propeller, grinding him up immediately. There should have been blood in the water, but we saw nothing. I won't go into the details of my life after the war until I became Santa at this mall. It's a long story, just know that I gradually became less neat, healthy, or clean than before. It was bound to happen anyway. My 3rd year as Santa, and my 1st year at this very mall, something happened. A little girl sat on my lap and told me she wished for a puppy for Christmas. I looked up at the line of parents and children outside. The scene startled me so much I almost pushed the little girl off my lap. In the distance, in the crowd, there he was, Wallace, still as young as the last time I saw him, and he was holding hands with a stunningly beautiful woman with thick, flowing black hair. In front of them was a child. Both of them placed their hands on the child's shoulders, as if the family was posing for me to admire. Everyone was smiling. Wallace waved when he saw me looking, as if he was just visiting an old friend. The little girl in my lap started crying. I looked down and realized I was gripping her hands so tightly she couldn't pull away. Her parents ran over and snatched her from me. When I looked up, Wallace and his family had turned and were walking away, but his wife looked back. Her face then was no longer beautiful, no longer human. Behind her wide, black hair were circles of sharp teeth, just like a lamprey's mouth. I yelled for Wallace, telling him to be careful, but he didn't hear. Mr. Jenkins was furious. The little girl's parents threatened to sue the mall. He fired me, but the next Christmas season he couldn't find anyone to play Santa. The pay was low and the mall was dying. There wasn't even a proper toy store anymore. No offense, Luke. So, after countless families brought their children, he called me back. That year, I went to the restroom during my break and suddenly heard rushing water all around. Then I saw Wallace crash through the ceiling and float down, as if he'd belly flopped into a pool, still in his dress blues. He looked directly into my eyes as he drowned, his body swelling then bursting. Thousands of baby eels crawled out, tearing his flesh apart. I have tons of stories like that, Mark finished his story. But I think you get the idea, don't you, Brian, the night security guard? Luke handed him the flask. He took it immediately. The atmosphere grew heavy. Luke was about to tell me about the time he encountered an alien right in his shop and fought it with a sword, but before he could finish, George cut him off. He said maybe everyone had heard enough for tonight. I sensed that no one believed Luke's last story. Finally, the group agreed to meet again in a few days. I wanted to talk to Jenna, the goth yogurt girl, but she left as soon as the meeting was over. George stopped me. "I've convinced Mr. Jenkins to let me work the night shift too," he said. "I told him the videos about the mall are trending on YouTube, so if you stay, you won't be alone. We can investigate together." "But why stay?" I said. "The mall is dying anyway. Wouldn't it be better to just leave it?" "What you heard tonight," George said, "is only part of the problem. Many people have disappeared, including children. What if they're still trapped somewhere? What if we can still save them?" "But can we save them?" I asked. "I don't know," George sighed. "There's another possibility. What if it spreads? Suppose we abandon this place, maybe whatever is inside the mall will remain dormant. Or maybe it will disappear. Or maybe it will erupt and spread into the surrounding community. Right now, it's contained here and we can manage and prevent it. If it breaks out, I fear we won't be able to cope. So, will you stay? Will you join us to figure out what's happening and put an end to it?" I didn't answer. My eyes darted around the room, trying to avoid his gaze, but eventually met Mark's. He was eavesdropping on our conversation, waiting for my answer. "Okay," I said. "I'll help. I mean, Jenkins just gave me a $25 gift certificate for the mall. If I don't help you guys, maybe there won't be anywhere to spend it. I'll keep you updated on what happens next." Part 3. Half of George's body was crammed inside the server rack of the CCTV system. He held a soldering gun, and I held my phone, reading instructions aloud from a PDF file. Smoke billowed from inside. "Damn it," George said, jumping out of the server rack. "We broke it worse." I asked. "We're a team," he replied. "If I broke it, you broke it too, even if it's out of warranty. We can't call the company, can we?" I asked. George pointed to the company's label on the side. the words Holloway Systems with an image of some kind of insect. Just try Googling it, George said. No matter how you search, you won't find anything. There's a phone number, but a computer answers and rattles off a string of random numbers like some kind of riddle. It's no help at all. George bent down to pick up his bag. Don't worry, I have a backup plan, he said. Inside were all GoPros, or at least cheap knockoffs. We'll attach them all over the mall, I asked. Exactly, he replied. Put them in hard-to-see places, but with the widest possible view. I have an app on my phone that can switch between cameras. We both decided not to separate when placing the cameras, always keeping each other in sight, only working at opposite ends of the same corridor. While separated from George to get another camera, I saw a 25-cent coin fall on the floor right in front of the arcade. As I picked it up, I heard the sound of arcade games emanating from inside. I clutched the coin and walked into the arcade. Lights shone from within. Steel shutters locked the entrance, but along the back wall, a Galaga machine was still lit up. Standing in front of the machine, with his back to me, was a boy. The light from the machine clearly cast his shadow. I stood frozen in place. The boy's hand stopped moving the joystick. He slowly turned around, but I had already bolted before he could see me, before I could see his face. I crashed into George. "What's wrong with you?" he asked. The arcade was pitch dark. The light from the Galaga machine had turned off behind the steel shutters, but I still clutched the coin in my hand, showing it to George. "I found a quarter," I said. "That's it," George shook his head. "God, I know we get paid little, but don't get excited just because you found some loose change." For the rest of the night, we were busy attaching cameras, walking and testing them on George's phone. In my head, I kept thinking about the arcade, about the boy. I hadn't seen his face, but I recognized him because years ago I had killed him. My drink this time was a mix of deadly dark chocolate and caffeinated cappuccino, nearly empty. Jenna sat across from me in the corner of the yogurt shop. She had pulled me aside before my shift. "It's so hard to talk about," she said. "Can you tell me?" I asked. "I want to tell you," she said. "Then just start," I encouraged. "Okay, I've worked at the mall since my senior year of high school. It's hard to believe, but my first job was at Hot Topic. I mean, I used to shop there a lot, so working there made sense. After a few weeks, I noticed a guy from my school, Dylan, kept coming in during my evening shifts, and he wasn't a potential customer. Dylan played football, basketball, and only listened to Top 40 or Christian radio. I had that breakfast at Tiffany's, the Breakfast Club, kind of thinking about high school cliques. He was the athlete, I was the freak. I thought he was just coming in to make fun of me, like in the movies. Emilio Estevez's athlete character would end up with Molly Ringwald, the popular girl, not Ally Sheedy's freak, right? I cut in. In The Breakfast Club, the popular girl Molly Ringwald actually ends up with the rebel John Bender, and, I've seen the movie, Jenna replied. Emilio Estevez's athlete character actually ends up with Ally Sheedy's freak character. Okay, I mean the early part of The Breakfast Club, when they were still divided, before they smoked weed, danced, and discovered they were all the same. You know what I mean? Athletes usually didn't pay attention to goth or weird girls, or at least that's what I believed in high school. Can I continue now? Yes, sorry, I replied. Dylan kept coming to Hot Topic on my workdays. Each time, he'd ask silly questions about products or ask if we could special order him khaki pants with a polo, because that suited his style more. I thought he was just mocking me and the things I liked. Until one night, he carried a boombox into the store, played My Chemical Romance, and walked towards me with a black wrist corsage, asking me to homecoming. At first, I thought he was joking, but his expression was sincere, incredibly sweet. That's when I realized, oh my God, he really likes me. We started dating, inseparable. Almost every night I wasn't working or he didn't have practice, we'd hang out or go to his house. Dylan had a dog named Riley, a tiny Australian shepherd, incredibly adorable and attached to him like glue. You could tell right away Dylan was its favorite person. Whenever we were at his house, Riley was always at his feet, wanting to sit on Dylan's lap. Dylan's mom, I thought she'd hate me because I was a goth girl and her son was a good, wholesome athlete. But she was amazing, always asking about my tests if I was doing okay. She didn't ask out of politeness, she genuinely wanted to know. Their whole family was like that. They were Catholic, went to church regularly. I didn't like it much, but they still invited me to go along, and I appreciated that. They wanted me to be part of the family. A few months later, we talked about sex. I won't go into details, but we had trouble finding privacy. Back then, the mall was already in decline, many stores were closed. Not as empty as now, but still deserted. I suddenly remembered a discreet spot, the Hot Topic stockroom. This room wasn't connected to the store, it was in a staff-only passage, locked, and no one ever went there. It was mainly used for seasonal storage. So one night after my shift, Dylan met me. We snuck into the stockroom. Deep in the back, there was a metal door. On the door were engraved patterns of verdigris bronze. I had never seen it before, but I wasn't surprised. It must have been covered by boxes before. "Where does this door lead?" Dylan asked. I shrugged, said I didn't know. "Maybe it's the storage for a furniture store," he joked. "Could be a bed in there." Then Dylan opened the door. Inside was pitch black. I told him not to be nosy, but Dylan didn't say anything, he just walked in. The door slammed shut behind him. He knocked on the door from the inside. I tried the handle, but it wouldn't open. I yelled, "Dylan, come out, stop joking." About a minute later or less, he stopped knocking. "Dylan, are you okay?" I was worried. I kept calling, but he didn't answer. Then the door disappeared. Jenna stopped talking, her eyes still fixed on the floor. "I'm so sorry," I said. "He disappeared." She looked up at me, mascara smudged. "It's not over," she said. "The story's still long." I turned around and Dylan was standing right in front of me. He looked bewildered, his face pale. He couldn't tell me what happened. I drove him home, helped him inside. I lied to his mom, saying he looked sick, probably coming down with the flu. For a whole week after that, I didn't see Dylan. He didn't go to school, didn't answer my calls. His mom wouldn't let me see him, saying he was still unwell. Her voice was different, like she suspected I had done something to her son. I went back to the stockroom. The door was gone. I felt like I had made it all up. After a week of not seeing or talking to him, I decided to go over for dinner with his family myself. I had been to dozens of such dinners during our months of dating. Dylan sat at the table with his family. He looked healthy, happy. He smiled a lot, just like the Dylan I loved. But his parents couldn't hide their hatred for me. They definitely sensed something was wrong. "Dylan, tell Jenna what happened to Riley," his mom said. "I killed it," he said, chewing on chicken. "I ran it over with my car." His voice showed no remorse, no sadness, no affection for the dog he once adored. "Oh my God, are you okay?" I asked. "I'm perfectly fine," he replied. His mom looked at me with pure hatred. "You're not sad," I pressed. Dylan looked around the table, seeing everyone's shock. "Of course," he replied, "I'm sad." "But you're not showing it at all." I helped Dylan's mom clear the plates. As I entered the kitchen, she blocked me. "What's wrong with my son? What did you do to him?" "I don't know," I said. "He killed the dog he loved so much. Riley lived with him since he was a puppy, and he deliberately ran the dog over." "What did you do to him the last night you two were together? Did you cast a satanic spell?" She gripped my wrist, her nails digging in until they bled. "I don't know," I stammered. "I don't know what's wrong with him." Dylan walked into the kitchen. "Is everything all right?" he asked. "Tell Jenna to go home," his mom said. She let go of my wrist. Both my wrists were bleeding. "Oh, that's too bad you're leaving so early," he said, pulling me against him, pressing his mouth to mine. One hand supported the back of my head, holding me so I couldn't pull away. The other slid down my waist to my butt, right in front of his mother. I pulled away. "Goodbye, Jenna," he said. "We didn't officially break up, but we weren't a couple anymore." When friends asked why we broke up, I just cried. I didn't know what to say. After graduating high school, I thought I'd forget Dylan. I got a scholarship to Notre Dame. Midway through my freshman year, I secretly checked the school newspaper online. A girl at the school was missing. My first reaction was that Dylan caused it, but then I thought maybe I was being paranoid. How could an ex-boyfriend be a murderer? The next time I checked that page, another girl was missing. I called the local police department from a public phone, leaving an anonymous tip, telling them to check Dylan's dorm room. Sure enough, they found a knife with the DNA of both girls. Now Dylan is in jail. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I get calls from Dylan's mom. She cries and screams, "What did you do to my son?" Once I tried to explain what happened in the stockroom. It only made her believe even more that I had used dark magic on him. I heard she curses my name in church, begging the priest to help save her son. For months, a few people still come to me, asking about Dylan, about my satanic temple in the mall. The day you first met me and asked if anything strange was here, I thought you were also mocking me about that. Every day, I lie to myself that what happened in the stockroom has nothing to do with Dylan's change, that there's nothing evil in this mall. That's also why I bought this yogurt shop, to try to believe the lie more than the truth. But I know the truth. I'm the one who corrupted a wonderful boy. I didn't mean to, but it's my fault. Jenna burst into tears. I wrapped my arms around her, telling her it wasn't her fault, that she couldn't have known what would happen. I tried to say everything to make her feel better. I don't know how long we stood like that until my walkie-talkie clicked on. "Brian," George said, "get down to the security office right away." "I have to go," I said. "It's okay," Jenna replied. "I need to close up too, but come early tomorrow before your shift, okay?" She squeezed my hand gently. The fastest way to the security office was through the arcade. When I got there, the shutters were closed. But inside, the boy was still playing Galaga. The light from the machine almost blinded me. I kept walking, but my hand instinctively went into my pocket and touched the 25-cent coin. The one I first picked up when I saw the boy. I couldn't understand why it was the exact same coin I had put in his coffin that night. Some other things happened that night, but I'll tell you in the next update. Part 4. When I walked into the security office, George pointed to the row of CCTV monitors. Out of 4 screens, only one was on. It showed a crowded corridor with shops I didn't recognize. I mean, I recognized the corridor, but all the shops there had been closed for ages, not still operating. "Is this from a recording?" I asked, like old camera data from years ago. "No," George replied. "There are no tapes in the system. This is live footage. At least I think so. I have a way to check. I'll go down to the corridor this camera is showing, then use the walkie-talkie to call you. You tell me if you see me appear on the screen." "That's a terrible plan," I said. "This mall is trying to isolate us, and you're walking right into a trap." "I know what I'm doing," George replied. "I've been here longer than you, and besides, CCTV is one of the few tools we have against what's lurking." "It's not a tool against anything, it's part of this mall," I said. "Just watch," he replied. "You keep an eye on the screen." He left before I could stop him. It didn't take long for George to reach the area the camera was filming. Shoppers bustled past, entering stores. "Do you see me?" George asked over the walkie-talkie. "I see you," I said. "All those shoppers, they're strange. They're avoiding you as if they sense your presence." "Do you see anyone or anything?" he asked. "I don't see anything," he replied. "Just closed shops, empty corridors." The screen went black. "George," I called, no response. "George, you're gone from the screen, do you hear me?" Still silent. I glanced at the knockoff GoPro screen that George had helped me install the app for on my phone. I opened the app. "Are you still there?" George's voice echoed over the walkie-talkie. Another CCTV screen came on. George was still in the same position, but the shops behind him had changed, and so had the shoppers. This time, they weren't moving at all, standing frozen like statues. "I'm here," I said. "You should come back here now. What are you seeing?" he asked. The screen went black again. "George, do you hear me?" No reply. "George, get out of there now." Not a sound. I scrolled through the GoPro feeds on my phone, no sign of George. The third CCTV screen lit up. Still in the same spot, but this time he was surrounded by dozens of people. They all turned to look at him, their heads tilted, mouths agape, eyes unblinking. "George," I urged, "get out quickly." The screen went black before I could finish my sentence. I don't know if he heard me, he didn't reply. The fourth screen came on. Surrounding him were metal statues, dozens of them, while normally there weren't that many statues in this mall. "Damn it," I heard him say. "Oh my God, Brian, are you seeing this?" I didn't want to just sit and watch George get deeper into danger. Plus, I bolted out to find him. I arrived at that corridor. I saw George standing alone. "What happened?" I asked. "Who knows," he said. "They appear and disappear." We spent the next few hours sitting in George's car, monitoring inside via the knockoff GoPro app. "So, nothing's changed around you?" I asked. "No shops or shoppers," George replied. "I told you I didn't see anyone. It was completely empty." Then suddenly, the statues were right in my face. Camera number 9, there's something, I said. There's a light moving. What is it? George checked his phone. Damn, he said. I recognize him. We have to go back in there. The person George was talking about was standing in front of the same fountain and statues that had once scared me. He wore a hiking backpack, scuba tanks, held a K-bar knife in one hand and a flashlight in the other. He looked ready for an underwater battle. Don't stop him, I said. Daniel, I called out. I don't know what you're planning, but can we talk? You always just want to talk, Daniel replied. You and your support group talking and crying and rehashing trauma. Not me. I've uncovered the secret. I know where she is. I'm not sure if I can bring her back, but I have to try. What did you find out? I asked. He stepped onto the edge of the fountain, level with the metal statues, showing no fear. The fountain was between him and me. Daniel stared at both George and me, while I kept glancing from Daniel to the statues, afraid they were about to intervene. We're making progress, George said. This is Brian. He and I have recorded many more things about what's happening here. He even attacked a statue. I ended up in the hospital, I said. But he still fought, George emphasized. I wasn't sure what I did could be called fighting, but George was clearly trying to convince Daniel not to do anything foolish. Daniel reached his hand over the fountain and used his knife to cut his palm. Blood dripped into the water, a few drops, but the red liquid began to spin rapidly, like a small vortex, while the surrounding water remained still. Come to the Drunken Bard tomorrow, George said. Around evening, everyone will be there. Join us one last time, tell us what you've discovered. Maybe we can all help you, and if not, I promise we won't stop you. Daniel's gaze slid from the blood vortex and stopped on us. He put his knife away, pulled out a piece of cloth, and bandaged his wound. Okay, he said. He jumped down from the fountain's edge and walked towards the nearest exit. Who wants to get pancakes? I haven't eaten for days to prepare for tonight. Now I'm starving. See you guys at the IHOP on the corner. Should we clean up that blood? I turned to George. Leaving a blood vortex in a public fountain somehow didn't seem safe. Okay, George said. You go with Daniel. Don't worry, I'll be fine. I guess this place can only power one night. I don't want to test that theory, I said. And hey, who is Daniel? What's his role in all this? He's a YouTuber, George replied. At least, he and his sister Amanda used to film videos together. So I headed towards the IHOP to hear Daniel's story. Part 5. Daniel speared pieces of pancake with his fork, tearing them into large chunks and shoveling them down his throat. I wasn't sure if that eating style was enjoyable, but he seemed satisfied. He caught my eye staring at how he devoured his breakfast. You're judging me, aren't you? He said. No, not at all, I intended to reply. People who eat pancakes delicately are horrible, they shouldn't be tolerated, he said. Of course, I wasn't there to hear his opinions on breakfast. Tell me about your sister, I said. About why you two became YouTubers, then about your ghost hunt in the mall. You don't need to hear our whole life story, Daniel replied. Amanda and I started a YouTube channel first. She's my younger sister, so of course she copied me. Her channel grew much bigger than mine, tens of thousands of subscribers while I was stuck with a few hundred. Amanda saw I was jealous, so she offered me advice, told me to try different video directions, but I was annoyed that my younger sister knew more than me. Then she invited me to participate in her vlogs, like she'd do my makeup and link my channel, but that was too feminine. That's when I noticed ghost hunting videos were trending. It sounded cool, and I heard rumors that this mall had creepy things going on, so I asked Amanda if she wanted to do a ghost hunting series together. I used to film pranks at the mall, she vlogged, so it sounded like a good combination. She didn't want to, she said she was scared. She really was, but I kept pestering her. Eventually, she agreed. I was worried that even if we snuck into the mall after closing, we wouldn't get anything scary on video, maybe just empty corridors. So I planned it like this. We'd both vlog before, hiding in 2 different restrooms until the mall closed, then come out together to film. I'd set up a prank to scare Amanda, so her channel would catch her jumping and panicking, then reveal it was just me messing with her. On my channel, viewers would see the whole process of me planning and executing the prank. Sounds interesting, right? But the whole plan was based on the assumption that the mall wasn't actually haunted. He paused to drink his water, then continued. I hid in a bathroom stall on the second floor, quite far from the exit, thinking few people would go there late at night. Amanda said she'd hide in a first-floor restroom on the other side. 2 hours after the last store closed, we agreed to meet in the central area. After about an hour sitting alone in the stall, I heard a humming sound. At first, it was quite faint, like some background noise, maybe from the air conditioning. But then, it didn't exactly get louder, but deeper, making my skull vibrate. It was very uncomfortable sitting there, but I still didn't leave my spot. I was afraid of getting caught if I went out too early. Then there were heavy, slow footsteps. That person opened the first stall, flushed the toilet, and water spilled onto the floor. They moved to the next stall, doing the same, water overflowing. I hid in the next stall, sitting with my legs pulled up, the door locked. I saw shiny black shoes through the gap underneath. They didn't try to open my stall door, just stood there for a moment, then moved to the next stall, continuing to flush. When they were done, they opened all the sink faucets, letting water overflow onto the floor. I heard something fall onto the floor, starting from the first stall, then the next, then the stall beside me. I wanted to run, but I also thought, it's just water on the floor and some strange sounds, isn't running away too cowardly. Then, from under the partitions on both sides of the stall, lampreys slithered in. They rushed towards me. I stumbled out of the stall. In the mirror, I saw a man in a thick woolen suit washing his hands and smiling. He must have been the one flushing the toilets and overflowing the sinks. "What's wrong, friend?" he said. Before I could answer, he turned around, but the smile was gone. Instead, it was a lamprey face. He reached out his hand towards me. Water was still running all over the floor, dozens of lampreys swimming wildly in the water. I dashed out the door, running like hell. After running a long distance, I looked back to see if he or the eels were chasing me. He wasn't there, but the humming sound still echoed in my head. That sound made it hard for me to focus. I just thought, I have to find Amanda and get out. Forget YouTube. If it weren't for that humming sound, I would have found her sooner. Amanda was also running, but downstairs. I called down to her, and we met at the stairs. Okay, one goal achieved, we found each other. Now we need to find an exit. We followed the exit signs to an exit, but there was no door, just a brick wall. We moved to the end of another corridor, where there should have been an exit, but again, no. Still a brick wall. We were trapped. Third time's the charm, they say, but it didn't apply to us that night. The third exit was also a brick wall. Water started flooding around us from nowhere. Not much, just a few inches covering the floor, but the entire mall was flooding. We ran down the last corridor, towards our last hope, and there we saw a bronze door in the middle of the corridor, intricately carved metal, green with rust. Beside the door were columns covered in mirrored surfaces. They distorted our reflections like a funhouse mirror. Amanda and I struggled to open that strange door standing conspicuously in the way. Suddenly, we heard slow, deliberate footsteps right behind us. I looked through the mirrored columns and saw him again, the smiling man in the woolen suit. I tried not to look directly, just told Amanda not to turn around. "Oh, you two don't want to go in there," he said. "Nothing good comes from going through that door, my friend." I don't remember clearly what happened next. The humming sound was messing with my mind. From then on, my memories are fragmented. I only remember Amanda standing in the middle of the fountain, the same fountain you saw me at tonight. But the statues around it that day were different from normal. They were naked, faceless. That night, they had lamprey faces looking at Amanda with hunger. Her eyes were filled with terror. I blinked, and then I was in the parking lot outside. I don't know how I got out. Amanda didn't. I called security, George came, and then the city police. We searched everywhere but couldn't find her. The water was gone. The humming sound, the smiling man in the woolen suit, nothing. Only a fragment of my sister's video remained somewhere online, posted on a strange website. I don't know why. I've been tormented by this. I'm the one who dragged my sister into YouTube. I was jealous of her success, and I forced her to go ghost hunting with me. Now, whatever happened to Amanda, it's my fault. I believe she's still alive. She doesn't deserve to be in that place. No one deserves that. Daniel finished his cup of water. I have more things I can tell, but I want to wait until tomorrow to share with everyone at the Drunken Bard. I don't know everything, but enough to perhaps bring Amanda back. I met the artist who sold those statues to Jenkins. He's a very interesting Vietnamese man. Daniel stood up, preparing to leave. "See you tomorrow night," he said, and as he left the restaurant, I realized he hadn't paid for his pancakes. I used my phone, opening the knockoff GoPro app, and saw a notification. A camera pointed directly into the arcade. George was standing in front of it. The steel shutters were open. He walked inside. "George," I yelled, running down the corridor towards the arcade. No reply. I didn't dare step inside, my eyes sweeping across the arcade machines, searching for George. My hand unconsciously tightened around the 25-cent coin in my pocket. At the end, at the Galaga machine, the boy in the arcade was still diligently playing. He didn't turn around, but he clearly knew I was there. "You can play the next round," he said. "I'm not here to play," I replied. "Sooner or later, you'll have to play," the boy in the arcade said. I threw the coin towards him. "Keep it, use it," I said. "Play as much as you want." The coin immediately returned to my hand. The boy took his hand off the Galaga machine. "If you set a high score," he said, "I'll leave you alone, I promise." I walked into the arcade, expecting the shutters to slam shut behind me, but nothing happened. I slowly approached the machine. In the reflection on the Galaga screen, I saw his face, my childhood best friend. But when I looked directly at the boy in the arcade, I only saw a lamprey face, teeth splayed in concentric circles. I didn't insert the coin. I waited for the high scoreboard to appear. All 10 positions read JSM Joshua Samuel Myers, exactly like when we were kids. I held out the coin to the boy, still mentally calling the lamprey-faced creature Tomerked, because it wasn't Josh, it couldn't be the real Josh. "Josh always beat me at this game," I said. "That's why he thought he deserved to keep the magic coin." When I was 12, during the last week of school, I found a magic quarter on the sidewalk. At least my best friend and I believed it was magic, because when we put it into the Galaga machine at Joe's Pizza, after we finished playing, the coin would automatically pop back out into the return slot. Unlimited free plays. That summer was record hot. Neither Josh's family nor mine had air conditioning because we were poor, but Joe's Pizza was always a cool 68 degrees all season, and as long as we kept paying to play games, old Joe didn't mind if we stayed there all day. I always shared the magic coin with Josh, and he always got a higher score, but that wasn't enough for Josh. He thought because he was better, he should keep the coin. That was only right, but I believed whoever found it got to keep it. I found it, so the coin belonged to me no matter how bad I played. Josh once offered to buy it, $5, $10, then $20. I almost agreed to $20, a large sum for a 12-year-old, and I knew our friendship was cracking because of a coin, but I still wouldn't give in. I wanted to keep that little bit of magic. At the end of summer, outside Joe's shop, we argued one last time about the coin. Josh tried to take it by force. I pushed him so hard that Josh fell into the street. We were both so engrossed in fighting that we didn't notice the car speeding towards him. It hit him, killing him instantly. All because of a coin and a game, I killed my best friend. I spread my hand, revealing the magic coin, staring intently at the boy in the arcade with his hideous lamprey jaws. "It's not mine anymore," I said. "It's Josh's. If you want to use it now, just take it, as long as I know it's not mine anymore." Seeing that he wouldn't take it, I placed the coin on the Galaga machine and walked out. "What the hell were you doing in there?" George rushed over just as I left the arcade. I looked back. The boy was gone. The coin was also gone. Nothing. "Nothing," I replied. "I thought you were in trouble, so I went in to look for you. I'll tell you what happens next after the final part." Part 6. Jenna and I decided to take a longer route to the Drunken Bard because I wanted to check on something first. I had told Jenna about the boy in the arcade, Josh, and the magic coin. "No one's playing the Galaga machine," Jenna said. "The game's light is much dimmer now. I guess this evil spirit, or whatever you want to call it, realized it couldn't sway you." "I accepted Josh's death many years ago," I replied. "I'm not afraid of anything in this mall, just annoyed it would use my deceased friend for its own purposes. Let's go meet Daniel, hear what he has to say. Maybe he has a way to stop this monstrous thing." Daniel threw a folding chair into the back of the Drunken Bard. "I'm not confessing anything," he snapped, "because I didn't do anything." "Why don't you confess what you did?" George had to hold Luke back, while Mark and I stood between Daniel and Luke. Jenna couldn't hide her amusement at the argument, and Susan clearly showed her disdain for the childish bickering of these two men. "The moment Daniel walked in," Luke said, I won't admit anything until you admit your guilt first, Lucas. Okay, I'll be more generous, Daniel said. I created dozens of fake accounts on Yelp and gave your shop 1 star each. Hearing that, Luke lunged again, but George held him back. When Luke calmed down, he confessed, I paid a bot farm to mass dislike your YouTube videos and send copyright infringement reports. Daniel picked up another chair, seemingly intending to throw it at Luke, but Mark and I managed to restrain him. Boys, Susan said softly. She didn't stand up or even raise her voice, but her tone was enough to silence both of them. Stop, we have more important things to discuss. Ceasefire now, my store lost a lot of money, I was forced to apologize. Before Luke could finish, Susan glared at him, picked up the chair Daniel had just thrown, and placed it back in the circle. Are you two done? She asked. They both nodded. Everyone sat down. The mall owner, Mr. Jenkins, adamantly refused to disclose the identity of the artist who created the statues throughout the corridors, Daniel said. It's strange because Jenkins was so proud, always boasting to anyone who came here that a renowned artist made those metal statues. That's an alien, Luke muttered. Anyone can see that. I agree, only a fool would see that, Daniel mocked. You just called me a fool. Both Luke and I jumped out of our seats. Enough, George cut in, standing in the middle of the room like a boxing referee. He continued, don't insult Luke directly or indirectly, and Luke cut back on the alien comments. Both men reluctantly nodded. Continuing, Daniel said, I won't go into a long explanation, but eventually I managed to trick Jenkins into revealing the art dealer he bought the statues from, not the artist himself. That intermediary initially refused to tell me the sculptor's name. He told Jenkins the statues were made by a famous artist named Luke Fan, but that wasn't exactly true. Luke Fan wasn't a sculptor or an artist. He owned a ship docked in Ho Chi Minh City, mainly used for searching for scrap metal in the East Sea. Luke and his son Bin managed this together. They'd sail for days, sometimes weeks. Luke piloted the ship, while Bin searched underwater for anything valuable. However, Luke said his son had another ability. He often relied solely on intuition to tell his father to dive down, and then he'd come back up with something valuable from the seabed. Once their ship broke down, not the first time. Usually Luke would call shore for a tugboat to tow them back for repairs. This time was no different, but the ship broke down in a remote area, and it was getting dark, so the tugboat promised to come tomorrow morning. All over the world there are many blue holes, submerged caves at the bottom of the ocean. In the East Sea, there's one deeper than 300 meters called Dragon Hole. Luke and Bin's ship drifted near it. Bin had never dived into the Dragon Hole before because it was dangerous. But they had free time, and Bin told his father he felt something very valuable was down there. Bin was underwater longer than usual. Luke feared he was in trouble. He prepared to dive in to rescue him when he heard a voice right behind him. I'm back, Dad, Bin said. Luke hugged his son tightly, relieved he hadn't drowned, but Bin didn't reciprocate the affection. His eyes were glazed over, his demeanor cold. What did you find down there? Luke asked. Lots, Bin replied. At the bottom of the Dragon Hole, there are incredibly intricate bronze-carved doors. Are they from a shipwreck? Was there a shipwreck? Luke asked. No, Bin said. They are gates to a kingdom. The Dragon Hole is mentioned in the Ming Dynasty literary work Journey to the West, published around the 1590s, telling of an underwater palace in a deep hole ruled by a dragon. Some other versions describe a giant eel falling from the heavens, burrowing deep into the earth to create a passage to its true homeland. Of course, Luke had never known any of this. It was only after everything happened that he researched it. How do you know those doors lead to a kingdom? Luke pressed. There's a lot more down there, Bin said. Statues of men and women, the same size as you and me, but with perfectly beautiful faces. We have to bring them up. That's ridiculous, Luke snapped. We don't have enough equipment to dive that deep and pull those things up, the two argued. Finally, Luke convinced Bin to go to sleep and wait for the tugboat the next morning. In the morning, Luke walked out onto the deck and was horrified to see dozens of statues strewn across the ship. Humanoid statues, but with mouths full of concentric teeth like lampreys. Bin was already awake, sitting beside a statue, gently stroking its cheek. Where did all these statues come from? Luke asked. I dove down again last night and brought them up, Bin said. You're lying, that's impossible, Luke yelled. Bin stopped, turned to his father. Nothing is impossible for me anymore. The tugboat arrived, bringing them back to Ho Chi Minh City. Throughout the journey, the father and son didn't say a word, the same for weeks after. Bin became obsessed with the statues. He neglected his work, spending all day around the statues, whispering to them, stroking them. Luke found an art dealer. The dealer found the faces ugly and suggested grinding them smooth to make them faceless and easier to sell. Luke let him do whatever he wanted, just wanting to get rid of the statues, hoping to get his beloved son back. But Bin became enraged with his father, attacking him. The last time Luke saw Bin was his son struggling, trying to bite him. Luke swore he saw sharp, concentric teeth in Bin's mouth. Luke stabbed Bin once. Bin fled in the night, stealing a ship from the port. The ship was found exactly at the Dragon Hole, and Bin was never seen again since. Daniel continued. Luke devoted himself to researching the Dragon Hole, the statues, and everything related. He taught me a ritual that I believe can be used to summon my sister back. It's what you all saw me doing last night. George, it's very dangerous. Actually, it's a good thing you stopped me. If I had tried it alone, I'd probably be dead. I need all of your help. We'll help, George immediately said. We'll bring your sister back. I'm in too, Jenna spoke up, looking at me. Yeah, I said. Okay, a mysterious ritual to open a portal to the kingdom of the eelgod. Makes sense, especially with my $8.50 an hour salary. I couldn't save my comrade decades ago, Mark said. But this time, I will help you and your sister with all my strength. Problem, Luke interjected. Susan and I have important news. Are you two engaged? I blurted out. Susan's gaze at me was as if I had said something disgusting. What? No way, she snapped. How dare you think that? Here's the news, Luke continued. We bought a row of mini kiosks in downtown, 2 empty spaces, so we're both moving our shops there. Sorry, Susan said, but I just want to run my business. I'm not interested in dark rituals or fighting ill demons or anything like that. Me neither, Luke said. Do you guys think I'm Neo from The Matrix, or John Wick, or some cool Keanu Reeves character? I'm just a guy who sells Warhammer miniatures. Okay, Daniel said to Luke, but if we survive tonight, I'll drop 1 million one-star reviews on your new shop on Yelp. The two of them started arguing again. 3 hours after closing, everyone gathered. Daniel brought everything he had from the previous night. Mark carried a pistol. George and I had tasers, as that was standard security guard equipment. Shouldn't I have a weapon too? Jenna asked. I'm the only one empty-handed. You can have my taser, I offered. Jenna took it. Don't worry, you probably won't need to use it, Daniel said, putting his bag down after he and Luke finished their second argument. We asked for details about the ritual, what exactly it did, what our roles were, what we needed to prepare. Daniel just said, Don't worry, I'll handle everything. That made everyone uneasy, but Daniel sped off before we could press him, saying he had to prepare. We stood in front of the fountain, the exact spot where I had encountered Daniel yesterday, and also where I first saw the statue move. The statues surrounded us. Being so close to them made me feel uneasy. Daniel held out his left hand, palm up over the water. In his right hand, he held a knife. He made a cut, then turned his left hand so blood dripped into the water. This we'll call the predators, he said. Then what? Mark asked. What about our protective ritual? There is no ritual, Daniel said. I intended to sacrifice you all to the eelgod. Before anyone could react, the statues reached out and grabbed us. Their faces transformed, returning to their original lamprey forms with sharp, concentric teeth. What the hell did you do? Last night, Daniel said, I lured you knowing you'd still be on night shift. When I snuck into the mall, you'd find me, and then I'd lure this bewildered support group here. I don't need your help, George. After talking to Luke Fan, I went to the Dragon Hole myself. I dove down, found the bronze doors, entered the kingdom of the eels to find my sister, and I found her. Now Amanda is his subordinate, just like your friend Wallace, Mark. He couldn't believe his luck when he sensed your presence through the statues. About 10 paces from the fountain, the bronze door appeared. The water in the fountain swirled violently. Hundreds of lampreys churned in the vortex. For a fleeting moment, I saw a face resembling Amanda's rise in the middle of the swirl. Wallace, Mark whispered, I see him in the vortex. You have 2 choices, Daniel said. Either pass through the bronze door and meet your new god, or become fodder for his children. Before we could answer, music suddenly blared through the mall's speakers. If you will, picture you and I, engaged in a kiss the sweat of your body covers. Can you, my darling, can you picture cry? It was Prince's Picture Cry. Did you plug your phone into the speakers? George asked. Not me, I said. Hello, everyone. Luke appeared, wearing a Jedi robe, holding a strange metal rod attached to a device on his back. Sorry I played this instead of heavy metal. I meant to scare Daniel anyway. I figured I could help, just in case these statues came to life. Daniel jumped out of the fountain. 2 statues pursued him. What kind of nerd outfit is that? Daniel sneered. This, Luke replied. I used to cosplay as a Jedi at SDCC, but I wanted a super realistic lightsaber, so I bought a high-temperature Mexican blowtorch. It's illegal in the US. They wouldn't let me bring it to the convention. Mark, in the Navy, did you guys use these to cut through ship compartments? Exactly, Mark replied. Do you think it can cut through these statues? Before Luke finished, he swung a strike, severing a statue's head, then cutting another's body horizontally. I've studied kendo since I was a kid, waiting for the day lightsabers became real, he said, pushing back several charging statues. Daniel retreated, while the statues that were binding us released their grip and rushed towards Luke. From beneath his robe, Luke pulled out a second blowtorch. My entire life has been preparation for this moment. He screamed, charging into the statues. Meanwhile, Daniel slowly made his way to the bronze door. Mark quickly picked up a dropped gun. Enough playing around, Daniel, he said. I have to go. He placed his hand on the doorknob, but Jenna was waiting with my taser. He collapsed, convulsing. We should hold this door shut, she said. While Luke chopped down the statues, the bronze door flickered as if about to disappear from reality. Their connection to the mall is being severed, I said. Keep going, Luke. Daniel struggled to crawl, leaning against the door. You can't stop him, he stammered. He's an ancient, immortal god. Excellent, George said. I just don't want him messing around in this mall. You and your ugly eelgod disappear to the bottom of the East Sea. Daniel reached for the doorknob, smirking. Very willing, he said. The door opened just enough for him to squeeze through, but Luke managed to lunge and sever one of Daniel's arms before the door slammed shut. Daniel screamed in pain, then the door closed completely, vanishing into thin air. The statues around the corridor were chopped into piles of melted metal. The water in the fountain no longer swirled with eels. What about the other statues in other corridors? Luke asked. We have to deal with them too. How are we going to explain all this to Jenkins tomorrow morning? George worried. I looked down at Daniel's severed hand. I have an idea, I said. The next morning, we showed Jenkins a new prank video posted on Daniel's YouTube channel, featuring a hooded Jedi running around the mall, chopping up all of Jenkins' beloved statues. We used George's knockoff GoPros to film everything, then used Daniel's severed hand to unlock the phone in his pocket, hacked into his YouTube account, and uploaded the gruesome video. It was effective. George and I were fired. We failed to protect the mall from that YouTuber, which was our main job. I didn't mind, but George was a little sad. The whole group helped Luke and Susan move to their new shops. Now the mall looks much less creepy. It's still dying, probably completely empty in 5 years, but I think the evil force is gone. Jenna and I are officially dating now. As for George and me, we followed in the footsteps of our entrepreneurial friends and started our own security company. Maybe we'll also handle mysterious cases that other companies won't touch, or if anyone gets into trouble with YouTubers, we'll know how to deal with it. If anything strange happens to me later, I'll tell you all.